Getting your first gun in Nightingale is one of the pinnacle points that really changed the mechanics of the entire game. Up until this point, you've been prioritizing resources for melee weapons, for your crossbow, stamina, and a variety of different other areas. And there's nothing better than getting that first gun in Nightingale, as it completely transfers the way you look at combat and how you experience it. And today, we're going to be focusing in on the very first pistol, for the most part, that majority of people will get, and that is the Lancaster Pistol. For me, I noticed a dramatic increase in damage and overall enjoyment within combat once obtaining my very first pistol. But maybe like many of you, I just crafted my first pistol out of tin, not really considering or thinking about the different materials. So we're going to do a bit of a deep dive. We're going to craft the Lancaster Pistol for early to mid to late game. We're going to put infusions, charms, tell you what cards to use to craft it, try to cover as much as I understand and know in order to get the best results for crafting your Lancaster Pistol, no matter where you're up to in the game. We're going to be able to compare stats between mid to early to late game of about 5 to 6 different Lancaster Pistol builds that are all built around the same idea of high range damage and high range rating. And we're going to upgrade all of them to the tier 3. Yes, I'm crazy. All that sweet tier 2, 3, and 1 essence down the drain for this video. So if you do get anything out of it, please consider liking and subscribing. Taking a long time, so appreciate your support. This video will definitely help you get started and give you a good direction. Now, some quick housekeeping things. In this tutorial, I haven't included and branched off and included how to get all the different bits and pieces that we're covering. I touch on some things, but to make it shorter, I haven't included everything. But if you do go through this and you want me to include the branch off of including how to get every single resource and bit and piece that we touch, I'll include that next. I figured for the Lancaster Pistol, this is a good one to start off with and get an idea. If I've missed anything on how to craft it better, and if I have, please leave comments and let me know. And also, if you prefer a much more detailed format where we break down where to get everything included in the tutorial. With that out of the way, let's get into this huge deep dive. The very first thing we're going to touch on are the different cards to consider. Now, one of the most overpowered cards early game is the Trickster Card. Now, you won't be able to unlock the Trickster Card until you can get to the Gloom Forest realm, where you will be able to purchase it from the Essence Trader. But what this card will do, and it's a good one to play in your Abeyance realm, and I'm going to make another video covering this in much more detail, but it's a superb way to turn your stones into much higher tier wood. So in this instance, I'm getting tier 2 swamp wood, which is perfect. Brilliant sort of way to gain some higher tier wood early. It'll turn your trees when you chop them or chopping wood from the ground into meat, hide. It'll turn some of your ore nodes into fiber, and it'll turn all your creatures into ore. And you can get some very mid to late game ore very early, even pursuit, for instance. So what the Trickster card does is it will change all your resources around, but also drop much higher potential ore, wood, fiber. So a very overpowered card to play to start off with. So keep that in mind, but we'll cover this in more detail in another video. Okay, so before we look at crafting the different Lancaster pistols, it's important that we know that we should be crafting these weapons under one of the 2 possible cards. So the Forge card, when we apply this, we will get blocking, critical, range, melee, and speed boost. The same can be said for the Lumber Mill card. Both of these pretty much boost every stat except for durability. And we're not too worried about durability. So make sure you do apply at least the Forge or the Lumber Mill card. I'm going to apply the Forge card, but you could use either. And just a quick tip, if you're wondering how to get your transmuter inside, all you need to do is remove the wall and then build it and then put the wall back. That's how you get the transmuter inside. So in order to find the Lancaster Pistol, we need to head to the Provisional Forest realm. Put this on any difficulty that you want. Main thing is we need to complete this mission called Find the Lawman. Travel to the Forest Provisional realm. You'll get that from talking to the lady next to the Essence Trader in your Abeyance realm, and that mission will come up sometime not too far off after you do the Antiquarian realm or the Astrolabe realm, I can't remember. So the NPC will be marked on the map and you'll be able to see it's Bass Reeves we're after. So once you've found Bass Reeves, if you start talking to him, he's basically going to set you on a mission. And that mission is to do some critical shots on some creatures, headshots and heart shots. So initially he'll give you the simple saddle, and we need this augmentation close to our workbench in order to be able to access the Lancaster Pistol. So that's the critical thing we initially get from him, and then he'll send you on that quest to do the critical shots on the heart and head. So this sort of like a little bit of an intro into the weak points on your creatures. For me, I found it easy to do the heart shots on bears, but it really does depend. But this just gives you an idea of where you kind of want to hit them. Bit between their top of their back neck and their bottom neck-ish. So once you've done that, you'll turn into Bass again, and then that will complete the mission. So you will purchase the Lancaster from the Essence Trader. So you will find the firearm under firearms at the Forest Provisioner Essence Trader. So you can purchase it there. You don't technically have to do the mission with Bass because you can get the saddle in the Astrolabe realm, in the Forest Astrolabe realm. So it's up to you how you go about it. But you will be doing it anyway, so you may as well do the Bass bit while you're there. That will get you the saddle, which you need to build next to your or very close to your workbench in order to be able to build the Lancaster pistol. Before we begin, let's just take a quick look at what wrap will do when crafting the Lancaster pistol and other weapons. So in this case, we can see we have the item level of 58. We're using tier 3 Harpy. If we swap that to wrap from Jana, which is very much an endgame ultimate kind of material to use for clothing, you will see the item level increase from 58 to 66. Other than that, I don't think it plays too much of a role in terms of the attributes. So for your wrap, you really want to try find the highest tier hide. So for the examples, I've included some tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4, and you can swap and interchange that as you please. But just note, that's really the main impact that the wrap will have in the building of this pistol. All the other components will reflect in the attributes. And the reason it's good to get a higher item level is because that's going to push your gear level up, letting you advance quicker in the game and get into the higher level dungeons, and it just speeds up your progression overall. Okay, so we're going to cover the early game, mid game, and late game. Starting off with the early game, or when you very first get your Lancaster pistol, I made the mistake of crafting out of it just out of generic wood. I wasn't too aware of all the differences and all the minute tiers and stuff when I started playing. So we're going to create one from the very base materials like tin, and then we're going to step it up with a tier 2 swamp wood, which is pretty easy to get to. Remembering that a tier 2, we just need to go to a realm that is level 40 up to 100. But again, we covered that with the Trickster, so you'll be able to get tier 2 very easily in your own advanced road if you have the Trickster card, as mentioned. So let's start off with the very basics. So we have our wood, our tin for the barrel. The action will be tin as well. We're going to be using the tier 1 Caprice Scarab, which can be found in the Desert Provisioner realm. You can see it here, Caprice Scarab. You can put it onto medium up to hard. That will keep you in the tier 2 range. You'll also find it in the Astrolabe and the Antiquarium. So those are good places to start looking. Now we're also using copper. So copper can be found in the desert realms from 1 to 99, requires a tool pick of 40. And if you're ever wondering about where to find resources, I have another video on where to find all the different ores and ingots. You can check that out to find the best places. Okay, so first we'll start off with the very basic tin. Okay, so the barrel, tin, the wrap, we're using tier 1. My apologies. So we're using the tier 1 Capri. So that's going to be realms with a power of 10 to a power of 40. So keep in mind, that's just this number here. That's going to determine a lot of the factors of what resources you find. And remember, you can change that by changing the difficulty. So we will be using the tier 2 Kepler. So keep that in mind for when we get into the mid-game stuff. Okay, so back to the crafting. We're going to go tin, Capri. For the wood, we're just using generic wood, and the action tin as well. So we got a very poor range rating, a range damage of 105, critical damage 1.7, magic and melee, all very average. This is pretty much what I crafted my first weapon out of. Very rookie mistake. I don't suggest doing this, but again, it does work and you can still get away with it, especially if you're playing on easier settings. Okay, so we've got it here. We're going to put all this stuff back. Now we're going to craft it with the tier 2 swamp wood. Remember, tier 2 realms 40 to 100. We're going to use copper because copper is pretty readily available quite early on. So the barrel, copper, wrap, same wrap. The stock will be tier 2 swamp wood, action, copper. So we can see we've already got quite a nice little boost in the range damage and the range rating. So the range rating is the damage fall off as the bullet gets further away from you. And with pistol, that's a really important factor we want to be improving is our range damage and range rating, but primarily range damage for this example. Now we can see already quite a dramatic difference using tin compared to using copper. We've already doing much more damage, and we have a range rating. You can see we're already doing much more damage, less durability, but we're not too worried about. And the critical damage is only a point lower. We got to keep in mind when we're using the pistol, we're jumping around a lot. We're not so much going to be hitting those critical hits. More about unloading your bullets and doing a nice amount of damage, at least in my opinion. But when critical damage really comes of value, it's for more of those pinpoint rifles. Or if you do want to do a critical damage build, we'll be covering critical damage rifle builds in other videos, and you can just apply that to your Lancaster. Next, we're going to kick it up a gear and go into the sort of tier 2 range and look at the kind of materials you'll get access to. So for the wrap, again, we're going to be using the tier 2 Capri in one example. For wood, we're going to be using the tier 3 swamp wood, accessible in any of the swamp realms over 100 in particular areas. We're going to be using a tier 2 Sear Eton wood. This has a movement speed increase and a range damage and a range rating. When it comes to mid game, the real choice is just going to be Bombardier. This gives a range damage of 25%, a great critical damage of 7.5. Your Bombardier ingots are dropped from the bound, and it has some very good stats for your mid game. Now, I'm not too worried about durability within anything I craft because it's so easy to repair everything, but that might be something you're worried about. You can build accordingly. So now we're just going to have a little play around here. We know that we're using the Bombardier as our barrel and action. Now for the stock, tier 3 Swampwood, definitely the better choice over the tier 2 Seer Eton. It is a bit of a toss-up for more range damage or range rating. We'll go with the tier 2 Seer Eton wood and craft that. So you can see here that the Bombardier, probably the pick of the choice for mid-game. And then your stock, you can use, whatever real wood that you can get your hands on, particularly the tier 3 to 4 Swampwood is great choices. But when we compare the base damage of 175 to 150, now it might not seem a lot, but as you upgrade your weapon, that gap gets bigger and bigger and more noticeable. Now for the late game, we have some straps, tier 3 Harpy, doesn't matter. The stock, we're going to use Swampwood, and we're going to use the tier 3 Fabled Seer Eton wood. Now this is pretty badass wood. You got a range damage of 20%, movement speed of 30%, and a range rating of 30%. So this is one of my preferred choices when crafting with pistols because that movement speed is just so attractive, especially pistol builds because you're trying to move around a lot. Now the tier 3 Fabled Seer Eton is in your Ascendance realm. So you'll find the Seer Eton as the Timber Knot, the young, and I found it in the Hunt Ascended realm on Extreme. Make sure when you do approach it that you can kill it very quickly because once it starts running, it's impossible to catch. For the other options, we're going to use Pursuit and Nadia, two classics. Pursuit giving a range damage of 25%, critical damage of 7.5. Who cares about your durability? If durability is important, please let me know in the comments. I'm not too sure if it really matters too much. Then we have a Nadia with a 30% range damage. Nadia has the highest range damage of any of the metals, and it also gives you a movement speed of 20. So this is definitely going to be my preferred metal to use, but let's see how it works out in the end. So first we'll build one out of Pursuit. We'll just use the Jana wrap, not that it makes any difference. We'll use the T4 Swampwood, and we'll put the action in. Now we can swap out the two different stocks, and you'll get a better idea. So the tier 4 Swampwood is going to give extra damage with a decrease of range rating. And just that slight difference for me, again, is why I prefer the Fabled Eton Seer. But let's craft this now. Now we're going to try. Next, we're going to do the Anadia. So a barrel Anadia, wrap Jana, stock. We'll have a look at the two different. So Swampwood's going to give us more damage, less range rating, and also a decrease in the magic power. So this is where preference will come in. But for me personally, I want that range rating because even with charms like Charm of the Sniper, it's still going to be limited. And extending that damage range on pistols, for me, makes a notable difference. But again, this will be your different choices, but these are definitely some great materials to use. So let's go ahead and craft this. And I've selected the wrong barrel. Okay, we're good to go. Let's do it. Okay, so now let's try to do a bit of a mix and match. So if we go the barrel Pursuit and the action Nadia, this is what we'll get. And if we swap it around, you can see it's better to have Nadia as the action and Pursuit as the barrel in this instance, just giving a bit more of a critical damage. But you can see here 190 if we go the Swampwood build compared to 185. So we'll just do this just for the looks. We'll see what it looks like if we have Pursuit and Nadia combined. It always generally looks quite good, so we'll have a look at that. Stats aren't too noticeably different. So another cool option we can try mess around with is adding the Bombardier. So we'll add the Jana wrap to boost our level. We'll go the Swampwood for the stock. We can mess around with the two different ones. For this, we'll go with the Eton. So if we have the action as a Nadia, we change it back to a Nadia. So yeah, and the Nadia build will always get the most damage by the looks of it, which makes a lot of sense because it has the highest range damage. Now the reason we're not using tier 5, but you could to increase your item level. Hang on a sec, we'll get some tier 5 stocks. Okay, so for tier 5 Swampwood, we'll just see if that increases the item level. Okay, no impact to the item level, regardless of what stock we use. So that's interesting. Okay, so it does have some impact because if we go to the tier 3 Fabled Seer Eton wood to the tier 5, we'll get the level 66. So it does have some portion to play, but again, if we're already using a Nadia, it's already pushing the item level to its highest. Now, I don't know if we can get higher than the 66 level. I assume there'll be ways to do it. If you know better methods or have better suggestions on what to use, definitely let us know. I'll put it in the pinned comments. But as far as I can tell, we will get the highest damage rating from using a Nadia. And again, this is a build that's going to be mostly based on range damage. And the reason we're not using tier 5 Swampwood is because it has less range damage and more magic power. So we want more range damage for this example. So we're just going to take a look at the different weapons and see what they look like. Okay, so this is what tin looks like. like. We'll go to copper. Now, unfortunately, it has a bit of a bokeh effect here. It's kind of making it look a bit blurry, so just keep that in mind. Bit unfortunate. We'll check the bombardier. Interesting color there. This is just the other bombardier that we use with different wood. The wood did change. Interesting. There you go. Okay, let's have a look at that again. My silly AI. Okay, very distinct difference. Now, I'll have to go back and I can't tell which one's which. I'll put the text up and let us know which one is which. The one that does more damage will probably be the swamp wood. So that's the swamp wood by the looks of it. And then this is the sear eaten. Could be wrong. I'll put up the corrections in text. Let's have a look at pursuit. Pursuit having that very nice sort of greenish tinge to it as expected. Now we've got the Nadia, the eaten, got that purplish look as expected. So yeah, that will give you an idea of what they look like. Now what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade them to tier 3 and see how all the stats kind of balance out over the course of upgrading them. Then we're going to add the charms and the infusions and see which one ultimately is going to have the highest damage. Before we do that, check out this. Isn't this game beautiful? Masterpiece. Okay, so first let's upgrade the tin to tier 1. So nice little boost here. Craft it to tier 2. And then finally, the precious tier 3. I'm going to lose a lot of tier 3 for this, but YOLO. Okay, next we'll upgrade the copper to tier 1. These are the stats. And we got tier 2. Quite a nice significant boost there. Range getting to 405. Then to tier 3. Copper getting a range damage of 540 without any charms or anything else. Now so we'll only upgrade one of the bombardiers. And so we have the high damage with the swamp wood, the lower damage but the higher range rating. It is a very hard choice. For this, we'll just go with the eaten wood with the higher range rating. We'll upgrade this. We won't upgrade both yet, just to save on that essence. Tier 2, looking quite promising with 472. Okay, and tier 3 essence, getting it to 630. Not too bad. Definitely not too bad at all. So bombardier is insanely good for your mid. You could even get away with it late game, really. Like, it's such a highly valued resource to make your pistols out of. Okay, next we will go the pursuit. So pursuit already having quite a high range damage to start with. Tier 2 on the pursuit, 486 range damage. Tier 3 range rating looking quite nice in the range damage of 648. So we have a choice between the Nadia with the high range rating or the more critical damage. We will go with the range rating. That's what I'm after for this example. You could definitely argue the critical will be better served, but it's either or. Okay, Nadia definitely look like it's going to have the highest range damage and the highest stats of everything, maybe bar magic. Tier 3 range rating of 140, range damage 666. Maybe it isn't the highest damage. We'll have to do a comparison between all of them. So now we'll add the infusions to all of the pistols. So we're going to go Clarity Infusion for range rating of 15%, Conveyance Infusion for range damage of 15%, and the Death Infusion for critical damage of 7.5. So we'll apply this to all of them, keep it all the same, then we'll apply the charms, and then we'll go do some testing, as well as look at all the stats. Now for the charm, we're going to go Charm of the Sniper. That prevents whereas range damage from decreasing with distance to the target. So there might be a better option here, but for me, my understanding of the sniper, it's going to really help us do a lot more damage when we're further away. And again, this will really add to the build that we're doing where we're trying to increase our range and our range fall off with the pistol. So let's add Charm of the Sniper to all the weapons. Okay, and now we're going to go test it out. So I'm going to leave you with the gameplay, me killing some enemies on repeat with the different weapons. You'll be able to see the different stats from how the gun started to how it finished. This will give us a really good idea of what is the best weapon, but we can easily say, depending on your preference, the Nadia Lancaster Pistol is reigning supreme with the biggest range damage and range rating. So it'll be interesting to see how they all go and what damage they do. But if you got anything out of this, please consider liking and subscribing. Spent a ton of essence on this, so I'd really appreciate it as it's taken a heap of time. Thanks very much. And if you want more detailed instructions in the next video on the next weapon about where to get everything and how to do it, let me know. Takes a bit more time to do that, but I can add that stuff in. Cheers, peace. Cool, okay, so we're going to do a test. Remember, we are taking our hat and gloves off just so we're doing some raw damage, and we'll be starting off with the tin. We'll fire a few shots of the normal rounds and then the ice rounds just to get an idea of the kind of damage we're dealing.